Viktor Orban continues to blatantly lie after meeting with Donald Trump. Everyone still remembers Viktor Orban's story that the United States allegedly completely and indefinitely excluded Hungary from sanctions against Russian oil, so Budapest can calmly continue to buy Russian oil and gas. There have been clear inconsistencies between Hungary's and the United States' official statements on Russian sanctions exemptions. Viktor Orban and Peter Szijjártó obviously primarily tell their voters that the exemptions are indefinite and have no restrictions. They also don't mention Hungary's reciprocal obligations for some reason. Suddenly, a White House representative announces the exemptions are granted for only 1 year. And Hungary, in addition to purchasing liquefied natural gas from America for $600 million, has committed to diversifying its sources. If this doesn't happen within a year, then sanctions may already be waiting for Budapest. Moreover, in Washington, there are behind-the-scenes hints that Viktor Orban is lying, but they fully understand why he's doing it. In the spring of 2026, he will face parliamentary elections, and he really wants to win them, and Trump was happy to help him with that. My name is Pechey. Let's discuss this topic together, but before we start, I ask you to subscribe to the channel, like the video, write any detailed comment under this video, and subscribe to my Telegram channel. The link is in the description of this video. There we publish breaking news as soon as it comes in. If you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so financially with any donation or a paid sponsorship subscription using the details and links provided. In the description of this video it says support the channel Pechey. Use any format you prefer. I appreciate any support you offer. So, Viktor Orban, right after meeting with Trump in Washington on Saturday, also stated that Hungary received an indefinite exemption from United States sanctions on the use of Russian oil and gas. But today, a White House official stated that this is a lie. Last month, let me remind you, the United States imposed sanctions related to Russia's war against Ukraine, against Russian oil companies LUKOIL and Rosneft, which posed a threat of further sanctions against the organization. Companies that buy oil from these firms. Here's an example. Hungarian Minister Viktor Orban, a longtime ally of Donald Trump, at least that's what he thinks, met with Trump at the White House on Friday to push for a delay. So sanctions wouldn't target Hungary and Hungarians could keep buying Russian oil. Hungary relies heavily on Russian energy, and Orban, who is waiting for the next elections? And today, 2 days after the meeting, the Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó continues to publicly insist that the United States has granted Hungary a permanent exemption from sanctions. Budapest apparently doesn't have to do anything in return. Well, supposedly Orban just went there, banged his fist on the table, said, "Donald Trump, go ahead and lift the sanctions for me right now." And Trump supposedly cancelled them without any discussion, according to Szijjártó. There are absolutely no sanctions on oil and gas supplies to Hungary on a permanent basis. The Reuters agency decided to check these claims because, to put it mildly, they sound strange. Here is my response to the inquiry. A White House official repeated that the exemption from sanctions for Hungary is exactly for 1 year and no more. But here's more. He added that Viktor Orban is trying to hide something. The official added that Hungary gave Trump a commitment to diversify its oil and gas purchases during this allotted year, meaning to give up Russian supplies and switch to alternatives. And here Viktor Orban outplayed himself, and very harshly at that. I'll explain why a bit later. More, Hungary agreed to purchase about $600 million in United States liquefied natural gas contracts, according to an American official. That would essentially be the cost of delaying the sanctions by a year. Hungary has kept or increased its reliance on Russian energy since Russia's 2022 war against Ukraine, drawing criticism from some European Union and NATO allies. And so, speaking in Washington right after meeting with Trump, Orban quota. No sanctions that would restrict supplies to Hungary via these routes or make them more expensive. This exemption is general and has no time limit. This is already in the statement. And just imagine the cynicism and dishonesty of Viktor Orban, who makes such statements knowing that it's a lie and a delay. It's only for a year, not forever. Data from the International Monetary Fund shows that Hungary bought 74% of its gas and 86% of its oil from Russians in 2024. In 2025, the share of Russian oil in Hungary's total volume will reach 90%. Orban intentionally made Hungary fully dependent on Russia. But Russia didn't give Viktor Orban a discount for nothing. Orban could bribe voters with cheap gasoline while Moscow got a loyal servant inside the European Union. And so, in Washington, Viktor Orban stated that without an agreement with Trump, energy costs would have risen sharply, hitting the economy as a whole and pushing up unemployment in Hungary. And that's partly true, but it's actually Orban's fault as he refused to diversify oil and gas supplies. But Viktor Orban does have an alternative. Just a few hours before the meeting between Trump and Orban, the oil refining company MOL, which operates refineries in Hungary and Slovakia, stated that in fact there are no problems with completely giving up Russian oil. The company stated that the pipeline from Croatia could become an alternative for more than 80% of its supplies if Russian oil deliveries through the Druzhba pipeline via Ukraine are stopped. Once again, the company stated that if crude oil flows through the Druzhba pipeline are significantly reduced, MOL will be able to increase the load on the Adriatic pipeline and provide about 80% of the supply to its landlocked refineries. Although this will involve higher technical risks and logistical costs. Well, once again, I won't go into details for long, but earlier, the Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó, the one who is lying today, claiming they were given indefinite restrictions, was excluded from indefinite sanctions. This very Peter Szijjártó assured everyone that it's absolutely impossible to pump oil through Croatia. He said, well, it's technically impossible. He claimed the Croatians wanted to profit from the war, targeting Hungarians by raising tariffs and more, because they're demanding payment for oil transit through the pipeline. And when did these stories stop working? Szijjártó suddenly stated in October this year, quote, "We must avoid a situation where we would be dependent on a single oil pipeline, especially one coming from Croatia." And, Szijjártó probably didn't even realize himself how absurd he sounded, considering that Hungary is 90% dependent on a single pipeline called Druzhba, which pumps Russian oil. He says, what are you talking about? Depending on the Croatian pipeline is absolutely out of the question, completely impossible and unreasonable. But the statement from the MOL company marks a turning point for the months-long statements from Orban, Szijjártó and the MOL company about the fact that a landlocked country has no alternative to Moscow when it comes to energy supply. Well, now I'll tell you why Viktor Orban outplayed himself. 1 year from Donald Trump is ahead of the European Union's plans, which Viktor Orban opposed so much. Due to the European Union's plans to completely stop importing Russian energy resources after 2027, MOL will have to gradually stop using Russian oil. But according to the European Union's plans, which Viktor Orban fought so hard against, he still had 2 more years to stop using Russian oil. And now, after the big victory in Washington, only 1 year? And the White House says in a year we'll come and check. But the elections to the Hungarian parliament are in the spring of 2026, so there is enough time to keep cheap gasoline at the gas stations and try to buy voters with it again. I'll add an ellipsis here. Share your opinion and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone. Subtitles by Dima Tozok.